Welcome to the Two Wealth Show, a show that shares how you can create real wealth for you and your family. I'm one of your hosts, Justin Bogard, and my co-host is Elizabeth Sickles, aka Super E. I am a real estate note investor, specializing in performing residential real estate debt. I find the deals, acquire them for my own portfolio, as well as educate investors while walking them through the process of owning a real estate note. My co-host Super E, a real estate investor, specializing in short-term rentals and the management of them. She connects investors with short-term tenants and manages everything in between. Our show is sponsored by BrightPath Notes and Elizabeth Maora. You can find out more information by visiting our websites at brightpathnotes.com and elizabethmaora.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 23.
Woohoo! We're almost to the end of the season.
We are. And being close to the end of the season, we want to talk to you about the fact that we're in fourth quarter and we only have 2 months really left.
Oh my gosh.
In 2021.
There's not enough time. There's not enough time left. What am I going to do?
Exactly.
Got to reach them goals.
Yes. So we got goals to talk about and we've got marketing to talk about, because if you're not on track to meet your goals, what changes, what tweaks can you make to make sure that you meet them by the end of the year, since we are fast approaching?
That's right. Elizabeth, so a lot of people get distracted, I notice, specifically in our real estate business, and they want to go after everything. They want to do everything. They want to be involved with everything. As far as, let's say they're someone that, like I do note investing. So there's performing loans, there's non-performing loans, there's sub-performing loans, there's seconds, there's firsts, there's seller financing, there's note creation. There's all sorts of things you can go into just within this niche business of note investing. And when I first got into the note business, I kind of was in all directions because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I kind of found and landed on performing loans as like, it's what suited me. It was available. I didn't have a lot of competition with it. Seems like a lot of people do non-performing. So I do non-performing stuff, but I really focus on performing, because I know who I'm selling to, right, Elizabeth? Mm-hmm. I know the end product that I have to deliver to somebody. And I just see a lot of people that are young into a real estate business. They kind of want to do everything. They don't really know who they're selling to. And so I've kind of rewired my brain a little bit to think as if I'm a big box store, so to speak, to where I look at it as I know who my customer is or who my avatar is. And I know what kind of product they want to buy. And that's what I want to serve to them. I want to serve them that pizza that they want to buy. So is that the kind of the way you tackle with your business?
Absolutely. So we have two types of target audience. So one is the target audience for the clients. So those are the property owners. And the other audience that we have are our clients, our guests. So the people actually staying in our properties. And one of the areas that, we said that we're going to talk about marketing is that we have shifted our focus on our guests to going after medical professionals, because they're here for weeks, sometimes months at a time, and we want those bookings.
Yeah.
So we're starting a whole new campaign on how do we attract medical professionals.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of the longer short stay, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And, if you think about, especially with our business, we have a lot of turns. We have a gazillion turns every weekend. And the more, obviously our higher occupancy, which we have higher prices on the weekend, but if we can get somebody in there for 2 or 3 months at a time, especially since we're going into the winter months here, that's so much better. We don't have to go in and do additional checks of the property when we don't have guests in there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So then you're probably lower your operating expenses, so to speak, with people coming in and cleaning and, doing that transition from old guest to new guest, check in and check out, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. That makes total sense. So it's the longer short stay is the sweet spot for you.
I like it. The longer short stay. And with us, Justin mentioned niche. So think about too, what is your niche? For us, there are a lot of vacation rentals, but we're urban, which is a huge niche market, or it's a small niche market in the short-term rental, vacation rental space. So what area are you in, and how can you be more niche? And then the other part of that is, how can you market to that audience and to really capitalize on your niche?
What are the effective ways to market too? I've found that, Elizabeth, sometimes it's not just email marketing or SEO marketing or text message marketing or cold calling marketing or delivering something in the mail type of marketing called direct mail. There's different ways to attract that client or that guest, right? And it's like which way works the best? And the kind of answer is they all work, but some of them are more effective than others, depending on maybe the gender of the person or the age of the person or what type of hobbies or activities do they do. I kind of dove a little deeper with kind of my investing group that invests with us and kind of got familiarity as to who they are, kind of what attributes are associated with them, and what is common with that group, so that I could focus on, okay, that person really fits really well with our business, and it works, right? It makes sense. And you see all the stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, I'd never realized that some of these people are more scientific, right? They have more of a science type of background or analytical background. And so I kind of I'm geared more towards them. So it's interesting when you kind of dive into the specifics of the individual investor and find out more than just, they met the requirements of the capital requirement, right? But beyond that, like what specifically, who they are, what makes them up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And just for our audience, the more you know who you're going after, the better your marketing can be, so that you get those people or that person, as a client, as a customer. So detail is really important.
It is. It's not just like, oh, I'll just get on Facebook and do a Facebook ad to a bunch of random people and be like, I got a 0.5% response rate. You scratch your head wondering, like, why isn't this working? It's because you have to get granular. You have to really understand your audience, and that's what's great about our businesses is that they are niche within real estate, but they can be even more niche within that real estate business, and then you can really slice off a different section that you essentially don't have a lot of competition too, and there's always somebody wanting to that needs what you're offering, and you just have to know how to find them. And once you figure it out, it's kind of a sweet little thing.
Absolutely. And I think one area that people, and we always talk about Facebook and Instagram, but I have a coaching client that said, hey, are you on TikTok? And because her full-time job is marketing. And I said, no, we're not. And she said, I see a ton of stuff on TikTok for short-term property rental management and all kinds of stuff. So if you're not on TikTok, there can be a huge business use to that platform as well. So we're actually exploring starting to add TikTok to our social media, because it is so popular, and it's so popular with every age group.
So that's awesome. And it's always funny when I hear people talk about the things that work for them and how what works for us is just a little bit different. So it's like just understanding who your clientele is and understanding for your situation who your guests are as well is great. It's always changing, Elizabeth. It's you kind of have to keep up with marketing, and it's an ever-changing things as far as how to sell your product or service and how to get in front of the right people. And I've learned the past couple of years, I've ramped more of my efforts with our resources towards the front end of our operation, as far as what I call lead generation of our investors and kind of lead generation of sourcing some of our deals as well. And it seems like we're not balanced like 50-50. We're more 65% heavy towards the front end of it, and then because we know the back end of it, so it's a little bit easier to load our inventory, because a lot of people are looking for inventory and solid investments right now, so it's not a challenge dispose of them, right? But to acquire them, it's a little bit different, and so we're going after our inventory as well as our clientele that's going to end up buying our inventory as well.
That's awesome. And Justin, kind of just to expand, so I was very against TikTok. It's owned by the Chinese, and but they're tracking us on Google and Facebook and everything else with everything we do. So my thought is, well, what's one more app? And if,
Right.
it's going to help us meet our goals, then we're going to do it.
Exactly. So we are in the fourth quarter. We have a couple of months left to go. So should people be already kind of buttoning up the end of the year, trying to reach those goals, and then also reviewing what has gone on the first three quarters and part way through the fourth quarter and setting the expectation going into 2022?
Absolutely, because January 1st is just around the corner, which is hard to believe.
Quickly, right? Well, Elizabeth, do you have a budgeting amount in mind when you go into a new year, or is it just like, I know I have to just put some effort into here, and then understanding what your profitability is, knowing if that's the right amount of money to spend on it? Like, what is your game plan? How does it look, or is it just ever evolving?
We have an overall budget, and then it's always changing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was nice, I'm all about travel, but the fact that we just had, I've been to 2 conferences so far this year. We have another one next month. But the fact that we haven't had the travel expenses that we normally have, so we're putting that money into marketing. So, there's always shifting that you can do once you have that budget.
Right. Okay. I'll be going to a conference pretty soon here. I'm not sure when this episode is going to air, but in the early November timeframe, we'll be going to Dallas to one of our bigger conferences. So that'll be exciting to go to another live event. So hopefully I'll learn some more knowledge from other people in our industry, and I can be able to take that information and apply it to my business and make it better.
Absolutely. We just had our international conference for the Vacation Rental Management Association in Texas, in San Antonio, and we had over 1,600 participants. So that's not including vendors and suppliers.
Okay.
So it was fantastic to see everybody again.
And what city was this in? I'm sorry.
San Antonio.
San Antonio. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll be near there. I'll be in Dallas, Texas, in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. And, I will, just tell our listeners and viewers too, that anytime you can go in person, it makes such a huge difference. Just those personal connections that you make. And, you can talk about all different topics. You never know where the conversation is going to lead. So I definitely encourage folks, if they feel comfortable, to go to these conferences and meet people and expand expand what you know.
Well, someone in one of my networking groups always says this, and it's so true. He's like, you don't know who they know. And it's like, when you treat people with kindness and you're respectful for them, and you're doing your part, you don't know who they know and who they could introduce you to. So it's always an extension of somebody else. So when you go to that conference and you're meeting hundreds of people, sometimes something resonates with somebody. Be like, oh yeah, I talked to Elizabeth and she's in Indianapolis, and be like, if you're looking for that, connect with her. Then all of a sudden, there's a connection, twice removed from somebody that got to you, and it's invaluable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Never underestimate the power of those personal connections.
Exactly. So what else do we need to be worried about going into the fourth quarter?
Well, you should probably make sure you have your Christmas gifts early.
Oh, gosh.
You've seen stores.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. Make sure you're prepared to hit the Black Friday sales and Cyber Monday sales on Amazon, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. As soon as they open.
That's right. I'm not a store person. I don't go to the store. I've never waited on Black Friday before. I think I visited like a Lowe's or someplace that people typically won't go to on a Black Friday, but I've never understood people going to a big box store and waiting in line. So I'm not trying to offend anybody listening to this or watching this right now, this feed, but that's just not for me. Are you like that?
I am not a Black Friday person. No.
I always loved shopping online. I feel like I was one of the first people that started to do that. And it's just, life is so much easier. You just, oh yeah, I need this. I pop online, I go ahead and buy it, and it shows up a couple of days later. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Speaking of, not liking, Black Friday, but we do like being in the black on our books. So
Yeah.
financials are, I would say, just kind of to Justin's point is, if you don't have a good CPA, if you don't have a good bookkeeper, get that done. That should be A1 priority, especially if you're looking at any type of big money coming in before the end of the year. So you want to be able to offset that income with any type of expenses that's going to lower your tax burden. So make sure you're talking to a qualified professional on that and plan that accordingly.
That's some great advice and a necessity to do. I wish there was somebody that could just list all the things out you need to do when you start a business and whatever you do, but it's just not possible, is it? There's some core things that you want to have, some sort of attorney that's, represents the type of business that you do. If you're in real estate, you probably want to know some title companies. You probably want to know some other investors, right? You probably want to know who can help, mentor you or coach you. And then as far as the business side of it, there's not really, an expert per se in our real estate world that's an expert in real estate finances, right? It's just, you want to find somebody that can kind of educate you on how a business should be ran. Even though all businesses are different and unique, you still need to understand the core concepts of business. So like people that have a business degree obviously have a step up from, folks like you and I that, don't necessarily have a full business degree, but we just kind of have to pick up and learn pretty quickly as to what to do.
That's exactly right. And learn by trial and error. As a point to our last podcast, Sean Holzapple.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
The ups and downs of running your business.
And I guess that's one of the nice things about you and I doing this podcast together. When we interview these people and learn where they started from and where they're at today, like there's a commonality with them, right? There's kind of a similar background story, not necessarily if they were from, the wrong side of the track or the right side of the tracks. It's just, they all kind of struggled in a similar way as far as like, okay, I figured out, I knew what I wanted to do. And then I had to figure out how to do it. And everyone always talks about, running the business numbers and just having, an eye-opening experience going, all right, that's a whole nother subject matter that I have to focus on in order for me to be profitable. It's not just like finding a great deal and selling a great deal and making a great amount of money. It's how do you maintain that profit without giving away the farm, right? And setting up your business the right way and having the right people analyze the stuff for you and itemize it in your books. It can be an eye-opening experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Elizabeth, I want to kind of jump off topic a little bit, and I want to go to you and then back to me. And I want us to answer a couple of questions, maybe one or two if we have time, on some people that come into our specific businesses and what is some very common questions that get asked to you. So just for full disclosure, Elizabeth teaches a lot about what she does with short-term rentals and running a business like that. And I do the same thing as well with real estate note investing. And we both have groups that meet once a month, and we all have side classes that we do as well. So Elizabeth, if you can pick, kind of one question that is very common for new people trying to get into your business that we could help them out with, let's kind of explore what some solutions are for them maybe on air right now.
One of the things, especially my coaching students, a lot of times they don't know, they have no idea where to start. They know they want to buy a property. So it goes back to know your numbers. That's the big, know what you need and know your numbers. So talk with a CPA, especially if you're W-2, even if you're not W-2, but do you need to buy for appreciation? Do you need to buy for cash flow? When you know those up front, you can make a much better investment.
Exactly. So Elizabeth, some of the most common questions to me when people are looking at real estate deals, especially in the note space, is they're not understanding how to calculate their return correctly, and they get confused with ROI and yield. And we just did a very detailed broadcast on this on our monthly meetup that we did a couple of weeks ago on our YouTube channel. So check it out if you want. It's called Yield versus ROI. And so people would mistakenly calculate ROI on a passive note investment as opposed to calculating the yield to know what their profitability is. So they would come up with these numbers and be like, I'm only making 3% on this return. This doesn't seem like a good deal. I'm like, no, you're doing it wrong. And they get confused. And so we had to break down the numbers and say, look, an ROI is a fixed investment to where you invest in something and then you wait for the lump sum return, right? And then you look back on it and you can annualize that if you want, if it took, over a year. On a yield, you're looking at basically a cash flowing investment, and you're looking at the projectability, forward thinking into the future and knowing what that profitability is measured on, what that number is. And so once we kind of explain that to people, they're just like, oh, okay. Because we always have people that tell us like this isn't a good deal. The ROI on this, I'm like, okay, hold on. The ROI is not how you're calculating this investment. If it's a non-performing loan, then yeah, there's going to be no cash flow, right? So you would do an ROI calculation, but on a performing passive investment, it's a yield calculation. So that's kind of the number one thing that people, when they're buying notes for the first time, they get confused on. So.
And that's huge. Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So Elizabeth, we're out of time for this episode. It kind of went by pretty quickly, but we wanted to remind our listening audience and our viewing audience that, catch us on our YouTube channels, BrightPath Notes YouTube channel and Elizabeth Maora's YouTube channel as well. Elizabeth has Elizabeth Maora University that she offers for training and mentoring and coaching. And then I have a constant cash flow course. You can find it on BrightPath Notes website under constant cash flow that you can sign up and get some training on how to be a note investor as well. So without further ado, Elizabeth, thanks for being on this episode 23 with me. We only got a couple more left till the end of the year, so I'm excited for that and getting into season 4. So I'm Justin Bogard with BrightPath Notes.
And I'm Elizabeth with Elizabeth Maora. Thanks, everybody.
Next time. See you guys.
Bye.
Two Wealth Show is produced by Justin Bogard and Super E, sponsored by BrightPath Notes and Elizabeth Maora. Thanks for listening and watching for our show.